Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another session of Thailand InsurTech Fair 2021. My name is Palm, CEO of Credit, the aggregated financial and insurance products platform for small businesses. I'm going to be the moderator today for today's session. So in this session, we'll talk about the rise of robots in insurance. Today, we have seen the use of AI and machine learning in various industries to automate business operations. And the new term that we often hear in the market is RPA, or Robotic Process Automation. We will dive deeper to understand more about it and how RPA will play a major role in the insurance industry. So join me here are the two speakers who are well-versed in the AI and robotic process automation space. First, Dr. Chatchai, Thnarudee, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Fusion Solution and Thanager & Co. Dr. Chatchai Thnarudee is a strategic, innovative, and transformational business leader with over 25 years of experience. Has taken many senior leadership roles, such as CEO, Board of Directors, Executive Advisor for multiple corporations, including Fortune 500 and publicly listed companies. In 2020, he has taken his responsibility company to next level by being recognized by IDC as one of the 20th best insurers in Asia. And second, join me is Prasanna Srinivasan, Senior Insurance Practice Lead at UiPath. Prasanna is an insurance digital leader with 10 years of experience. His breadth and depth of experience include advising on strategic transformation, developing an insurtech startup for general insurance, creating the vision of the business cases for change, and innovative lifestyle product development. So welcome and good afternoon. How are you guys today?
Thank you, Pom. Thanks for having me here. I'm very excited to be a part of this panel. Looking forward to a great discussion today.
Thank you, Kun Palm, as well. Hi, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'm really looking forward to this productive discussion.
Great. Yeah, without further ado, let's jump into a very first thing that I think an audience will be interested in and want to learn more about. What is exactly RPA? There seems to be a buzz around it, right? And this term has been used more widely now. And how was it developed so far in terms of the technology advancement? Maybe Dr. Chatchai, let's begin with you. Maybe you can shed the light on that.
Sure. All right, Kun Palm. Thank you so much for the first question. I understand that these Thailand InsurTech Fair 2021 organized by the OIC is actually trying to sort of continue to promote, right, the InsurTech and how we are using multiple and combination of technologies to deliver what we are calling InsurTech, which stands for insurance technology. And just like you said, Kun Palm, the RPA in the past maybe 5 years, we have heard about these terms a lot. But before I answer that question, I just want to emphasize one thing is that in order for insurers to become insurtech, is not about only one particular technology. So we really need to have understanding and also ability to apply the multiple and combination of technologies. RPA is one of them into our sort of digital transformation journey. So and specifically the RPA stand for Robotic Process Automation, which we are grateful that we have Mr. Prasanna from UiPath, which is the RPA leaders based on the recent Gartner Magic Quadrants. He also can introduce this more. But for me, RPA is the way you are using software or digital technology or application technology, basically try to automate the business logic and how can you use the automating to approach them from as the structural input aimed at automating business process. So this is the So that my 2 cents around RPA. So basically, many people use RPA to automate the business process, to automate the repetitive and large-scale business process that usually involve a lot of people or labor intensive. And then we are using RPA to actually minimize that and create cost effective. And so then our people, our employees can focus more on high value activities. All right. I'll pass that to Mr. Prasanna to elaborate on this more.
All right. Thanks, Chatchai. Those are great points. So I just wanted to add to it. Now, RPA is at the heart of automation technology, right? It can mimic human actions. It can navigate systems, access core applications like humans do. It can retrieve information, transform them, can do all that. But it's at the heart of automation technology. But when you give those robots AI skills, they can do much more complex tasks. Like they can start recognizing characters or images. They can understand language, and they can even make themselves better over time. So the possibilities are endless.
So, Prasanna, since you are from UiPath, you must have seen a lot of use cases and variety from many industries, right? So, from your opinion, what are the industries that RPA is actually mature more than the others? And for those that are still maturing, and why that they are slowing than the other industries?
Right. So if you see, insurance was one of the first industries to see wide spread adoption of automation, right? It has to do with the nature of the industry. We are a data-driven business, and the processes are very document heavy. So it makes it an ideal candidate for automation, right? But most insurers have seen the first wave of automation where they automate simple backend tasks using unattended bots, right, with the main focus on cost reduction. But that has changed in the last couple of years, primarily driven by COVID. Now, insurers are looking at automation not only for cost reduction, but as a strategic enabler to support their future of work program, to accelerate their profitable growth, and to provide a more seamless customer experience. Now, when you're comparing it with other industries, I feel banking and financial services is the market leader in terms of RPA adoption, closely followed by insurance and healthcare. Now, if you look at the reason, I think the main reason is in the 2008 financial crisis, it paved the way for banking and financial industries for a technological revolution, and they are able to adopt innovative technologies like RPA faster comparatively to other industries.
Got it. Okay. And what are some of the tasks in insurance that you have seen? What are the common use case, and what are the complex use case that RPA can carry out to benefit the insurers? Maybe we can start with Prasanna.
Sure. Now, insurers use a mix of legacy applications and systems, right? RPA can serve as a bridge between these disparate legacy systems. Now, we talked about what RPA can do. It can navigate systems, it can extract information and then transform them into reports or dashboards, pass on that information to downstream systems. It can do all that. Now, robots can be classified into two types. One is your unattended robot, which sits on a server, and then as soon as some event happens, then the robot gets triggered. The second type is attended robot, which sits on a user's desktop, and then the user can trigger it as and when on demand. Now, I'll give you a couple of examples for these. Now, in the unattended scenario, let's look at a claims process, right? Imagine a customer sending in a mail to the insurer to file a claim, right? As soon as the mail hits the inbox, an RPA, the unattended bot gets triggered. It can go through the email, understand the nature of claim. It can classify the email based on the context. It can download the documents using intelligent document processing. It can extract the information. It can go to multiple backend systems, including mainframe systems, legacy systems, web applications, be it databases or CRM systems. It can aggregate whatever information that is required about the customer policy or claim to process and validate that claim. Right now, depending on business rules, say the claim value is less than a particular threshold, the bot can automatically process or approve the claim and then initiate payment as well. But if it is above a threshold, it can loop in a human, wherein the human, what he does is he doesn't have to go to multiple systems to gather all that information, right? He already has all the information available to him. He just looks at the information and then he either approves or denies it, and then the robot can again pick it up for payment. So that is the unattended scenario. For an attended scenario, I'll give an example of a renewal process, right? Say an underwriter on a daily basis, he receives a certain set of policies for renewal, right? Now, as soon as he receives this in an email or he gets an Excel with a list of policies. So as soon as he receives this list, he can trigger a robot from his desktop, which would then go through this Excel file and then based on that log into multiple applications, again extract all the relevant information which is required by the underwriter to process this policy renewal process. Now again, if he wants, he can either approve or deny it. If needed, he can also escalate it to his manager if he doesn't have the necessary approvals in place. Now, the best thing in the attended scenario is the robot and the human gets to work together in the same system, right? When the robot is doing all this in the background, the underwriter can go back to the other set of policies and then go through the same set of activities. They work together side by side without interrupting each other.
Got it. So you've seen that the more complicated case, it will be attended robot that mostly used, right? And then
right.
Working together with human.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say complicated. When insurers started their journey, they were focusing on unattended automation. But slowly what we have realized is most insurers do not want to give the entire control to robots, right? Because one, unfortunately, all our processes are not documented, right? In insurance, even if you have the processes documented, the process flow do not capture all the details. So it was necessary for humans to come in the loop to either look at exceptions or for approvals. So what we have seen is there's been a shift in terms of going towards attended automation, because we've spoken to a lot of these personas within the insurance industry as well, be it claims officer, underwriter, or actuary. They want to have that control with themselves when it comes to being it approving a high value claim or taking a decision on renewal process. So slowly from using completely unattended robots, now we are seeing a shift where insurers are moving towards using attended robots.
Got it. Okay. And Dr. Chatchai, do you see any difference from the use cases that Prasanna mentioned in Thailand specifically, or is there a different approach in using RPA in Thai insurance industry?
I might answer that in different context and approach. So basically, I mean, just like you mentioned earlier, I used to be the CEO of one of the insurers, and we are using a lot of technologies to actually increase the customer experience and at the same time to increase cost efficiency and cost effectiveness, right? And currently, as the chairman of the Fusion Solution, which is the digital transformation advisor and also executor, and Thanager also is the management consulting. So basically, when we talk to our clients, especially insurance companies, once again, let me go back to what I have mentioned earlier. Actually, I think there are some. I'm not sure the misunderstand is the right word here, but maybe the level of understanding about insurtech itself and how to use digital technologies to deliver insurtech capability may be quite different from one organization compared to the other organizations and the leader itself. So we talk about robots, right? And for our topics here, we are focusing on RPA, which is software application that try to actually capture, just like what Prasanna mentioned earlier, the process, the business process, and then automated can work hand in hand unattended robot, for example. hand in hand with the human, right? But the thing is that let's talk about the chatbot, for example. Let's talk about claim, just like Prasanna mentioned, using some trade show, and then we use AI technology or ML technology to understand that behavior. So the question is around whether between RPA, chatbot, and AI, are they the same? How these technologies can complement each other, right? So I think the things, I don't think we have time to discuss about that, but I encourage those who are listening to our panel discussion to understand what are the differences just in that and in those technologies, but and then understand how you can integrate those technologies to each other, right? So then back to the question of Kumpam about the use cases. Actually, insure in Thailand also sort of go into the same direction as the insure in other countries using this specific very technology RPA, right? If we be talking about the insurance value chain, the process itself, we can maybe simply say that it can be categorized into the front line or customer interaction process, right? Like, for example, CRM, quotation request, something like that. And then we have core insurance, which is underwriting, claim, and reinsurance. And by the way, many people and many technology companies might not want to talk about the insurance part, but is a one of the core insurance that the insurance has to be able to have this kind of capability within the ecosystem. And then you can talk about the back end process like HR, accounting, finance, right? So then those kind of processes across these maybe 3 or 4 categories. Certainly, we see a lot of use cases in the RPA rising. That many insurers try to use RPA in those 3 or 4 categories. For example, just like what Mr. Prasanna mentioned earlier, right? And then underwriting, and then insurers also use the for that back end process as well. So I think back to this question, I personally see a lot of same progressions that insurance in Thailand try to do this. Well, we talk about the trade show for claiming, but just like we discussed earlier, right? That because of maybe the regulation itself or the risk averse of the underwriter or actuarial, that's why they still need to have some kind of interaction between human and the RPA itself. So this is, I think this, I see this trend, not only in Thailand, that the threshold is going up. We can start with 2,000 baht claim using RPA, and then you see a lot of, if it's proven successfully, the threshold for 2,000 baht, for example, can go up to 5,000 baht. So this kind of thing, you see a lot of things in common between Thailand market and comparing to the other insurance markets.
Got it. Yeah, that means we have seen a very similar trend everywhere, right? Both in Thailand or the other part in the region, and it seems like once they are more educated and more informed about RPA, they use and switch it from unattended to more attended type of use case, and then work hand in hand with the robot, right?
Yes, but just one little point here, just back to what I mentioned earlier. But again, RPA is one of the jigsaw of digital transformation for the insurance business, like InsurTech. So that's why we have to understand that jigsaw is switching between unattended to attended robot. And also how can we combine that with other technologies? I think that's the key. It doesn't mean that we are talking about RPA to improve business process for claim only. We have other related processing in the claim process that we might need to have or leverage other technologies complement it with the RPA, like AI, for example.
So it has to be considered along with other technology as well when you think about RPA. So actually that actually related to the next questions I have. How can insurance company know what's right type of software for the company when they evaluate the solutions, RPA and the internet connectivity with other tech solution in the company? So maybe we can, Prasanna, maybe we can start off with this one first.
Insurers can obviously look up for reports from Forrester Wave or Gartner Magic Quadrant to identify the leaders in the RPA space. But ideally, they should be looking for technologies which will be flexible in future because the underlying processes or systems can change, right? From a cost perspective, total cost of ownership is very critical. You need to look at the entire platform, right? From discovery to insights. Are you getting everything out of the platform? And what we see is some of our customers are also democratizing development, where most of these insurers have a long tail of automation ideas, but it is not possible for the IT team or central COE to automate all of these processes, right? So with the right set of tools and training, whoever wants to, even the business users, can become citizen developers. Now, to do that, you need the the ease of use of the software plays a critical role, plus having the availability of training material and having a good community also becomes a very critical factor in choosing the right RPA tool.
Got it. Okay, Dr. Chatchai, you have anything to add? When the clients come to you, how would you suggest your client to evaluate the RPA solution?
That's actually when I advise my clients, I always ask them back about what they actually want, right? So like I said earlier, RPA is one of jigsaw technology. So then the thing is about, for example, if their process still all manual, can we start with RPA? I mean, we can't, right? Because we have to start digitizing them first. And then when we digitize them, transition them from manual to online or electronic form, and then we can use RPA, to automate them. And for example, some clients use some particular ERP system that the RPA solution can integrate and also try to automate that process in the ERP system. So then certainly we can use RPA. So that it's about the maturity of the client itself, right? But then go back to your question about RPA platform or solution. So certainly I feel like right now we also need to understand about we have to use scalability as one critical factors or criteria that we need to have, right? Whether the RPA solution that we are looking for, if we need it, if we really need it, basically can scale or not. And scalability also means that it can integrate with many platforms or solution or software solution like multiple ERP solutions or not. And also can we use cloud environment to enable or to use that RPA solution in the cloud environment, for example. So that's kind of three criteria that I always advise my clients that this is a thing that they need to do, and certainly the last, actually 3+1. The last one that is very important about today's situation is about cybersecurity. We have to ensure that when we talk about RPA technology, we talk about integrating with the other solution try to automate process from business logic or business processes from the other applications. So what about cybersecurity in terms of data protection, in terms of data privacy, in terms of software license agreement, those kind of things that we also need to consider.
Right. That means you would recommend that the first step is to digitize the analog data first into something that RPA can consume and then work together with those data, right? That would be your recommendation for.
the first step, right?
First
And then
first step.
yeah. And the second step, if we talk about RPA solution, then scalability, integrability, and cloud ready, and then cybersecurity are the 4 criteria that I would recommend to choose.
Got it. So when we talk about robots and automation, right, there's also a growing concern about the disruption of a labor workforce. I've seen this in the countries that is developing. And do you see that this is a concern or a challenge in adoption of RPA in this region? Do you see when you talk to client, is there resistance from other team or within the organization? Dr. Chatchai, maybe start with you first.
Sure. I think it depends on who you ask, right? If you ask CEO or C-level executive, I based on my first-hand experience, many of them don't care. If we ask more the middle level management or frontline supervisor, they care a lot about, okay, this is going to impact their workforce, right? I mean, but again, it depends on who you ask and which rank in the organization that you are in. So, but I think we have to be realistic, right? That certainly new technology is not only RPA, but new technologies also driving us as a human to focus more on high-value activities, driving us to focus more on something new, something that never happened before, right? So there's that kind of things that I think is inevitable to say that we as a human, we need to focus on the new things, what the next normal is. So then I think there are certainly there are some concerns from the frontline supervisor and workforce that RPA, for example, or even the physical robot, that we see, or even AI, machine learning can eventually replace human capabilities. I think that there are growing concerns about that. But I think as the CEO of the company, as a leader, I think we need to be able to paint the picture and also communicate clearly about coexistence between digital world and the conventional world or human world. How are we going to reskill, upskill our people? How are we going to move towards this organization and ask our employees to focus on their new skills, and how we can use the HR process more effectively in order to accommodate this change. For example, if we talk about hiring people, many organizations just hiring people to replace or backfill those who leave the company, right? Even they retire or they go for another job. Basically, job vacancies mean you find something to replace them. But not many organizations actually look into the detail that do we really need to backfill that position anymore? Can we replace them with robotic process automation, for example? Can we replace them with AI? And then we use the same headcount, convert them to new things. Data scientists, for example, RPA specialists, for example. So these are kind of things that back to my answer. I think there are simply say that there are a lot of growing concern, but as a leader of an organization, we need to be clear on the direction we are going forward and how we can how can we make the coexistence between digital and our employees. And lastly, how can we be clear on what kind of new skill or the way we can upskill or reskill our employee to the next level.
And Prasanna, when you're trying to implement a UiPath solution with your clients, do you see some resistance from different team of your client, or is there any other concern that they often raise?
Right. Like Dr. Chachai mentioned, right, as an employee perception or resistance is one of the biggest problems we see, not just in insurance, across industries, right? Because it's a change management problem. People fear change by nature. So the communication from the top management is very critical. It has to be consistent and frequent, right? It's not just about cost reduction or replacing staff. It's about doing away with that mundane job and giving them something exciting to do. You also need to look at robots as a digital workforce, right? And they are here to coexist with us. There's the communication is very important. Reskilling the employees again is very critical, right? Especially so like Dr. Tachai mentioned, do you need to uh, find a replacement for people who have already left, right? Because especially in a market like APJ, if you look at the uh, attrition rate, it is relatively higher compared to developed markets. And there's a huge growth story as well waiting in the APJ market. When the cost of managing that attrition along with supporting the growth is high. So can you talk to the business teams and understand if you can automate some of these repetitive tasks so that you don't have to hire more people, right? That is one. Second, the other common mistake we see is especially when they are in the early stages of automation journey, some people try to automate the most complex process that they can find, right? But like I mentioned earlier, the process is not completely defined. You usually don't factor in the edge cases. So it is very important to start small. Start with probably RPA plus intelligent document processing, and then build on it rather than going at the most complex process at your infancy, right? And uh, targeting processes for automation without understanding them completely again is a very common mistake. So that's where we feel tools like process mining plays a huge role. It would help you understand the processes in detail. It will help you in identifying those edge cases when deploying RPA bots.
And what if they need to be replaced, right? For those team or group, like what would you recommend the management level to retrain the employees? What kind of skill set that they need, or even in the future workforce that they're gonna hire? What would you recommend them?
Now, insurance in the future is going to become more collaborative and strategic, right? It's the knowledge workers have to become more comfortable working with robots and AI. But machines do have their limitations, right? There are skill sets like cognitive skill sets like reasoning, collaboration, emotional intelligence, where humans do a much better job than robots. So you cannot replace 100% of human interaction. So there is no hiding behind the fact that certain jobs which are administrative and repetitive in nature are going to be replaced by robots, but they do open up various other roles as well. So reskilling and being collaborative is very critical. I feel the human workforce in the future will increasingly focus on providing a more personalized customer experience.
Got it. And Dr. Chai, would you recommend the management to retrain their workforce, and what kind of training or skill set that they need?
I think I support Mr. Prasanna as well about the digital skill sets that the future workforce need to focus on. I would like to add up on the other 2 or 3 aspects. I think the digital technology certainly is the things that, or the skill that we need to train our people. And training not means that put them in like in the classroom, in class training or virtual or online training, but actually um, create some projects or opportunities for them to actually do it. So practice make perfect, right? So that's the thing that I think we need to build that kind of people development around digital technology into this kind of people development program. And besides that, I mean, the critical thinking itself, creativity itself, on the soft side, we also need to develop our people, our employee as well. And that's the second one on the soft side. And the third one is around the business itself. I think supporting to Mr. Prasanna mentioned about customer experience, dealing with customer experience. I think we also need to understand the business context within the industry that you are in, and also the supply chain and value chain. For example, if you are in insurance business, right, you have to understand your insurance business, and at the same time, you have to understand your customer expectation as well. I mean, that's the way you can speak fluently and can understand the customer better, right? I mean, if you want to understand customer, but you don't have the business context or business acumen around the industry that you are in, I think it's not going to like two-way street road, right? It's only one-way communication, and then you try to understand your customer, and then you come back to your business operations or your colleague, and then they feel like you want something that's so different than they are doing here. So basically, this kind of skill, and someone might say, okay, what I just said is a business analyst skill. Yes, it is. The business analyst skill is still vital, to the new world. So basically understanding of business, and then you can translate that into IT terminology. But at the same time, you also need to understand the customer and talk to customer. The business analyst should not only talk to IT guys, right? We have to understand and then not only internal customer. You all need to, other departments, but you all need to talk to your customer, understand what they really need. When you design the UX, UI, and then you never talk to your actual customer, policy holders, then I'm sorry to use it, useless, right? I mean, you have to understand the real customer needs. So that another skill, right? And then lastly, I can say that maybe go back to the word digital. Cybersecurity is really important. It's like your shadow. You talk about digital technology, you talk about sophisticated technologies, but you forget to mention about cybersecurity, and that is going to be you can get impacted by cybersecurity issues a lot. So then that's another thing that you also need to consider and try to improve or develop your employees toward this kind of 3 or 4 domains.
There's actually a perception that you need to, know programming in order to operate with RPA, but certainly there's plenty of aspects that and skills that you can train or retrain your employees, right? From both of you, and I think that's pretty insightful. So there's actually some questions from the audience. The first one is that if the insurers or brokerage firm want to start adopting RPA in their operations, what would you recommend for a strategic managers to evaluate and plan their RPA rollout? Maybe start with Prasanna first.
Right. Sure. I'll probably break that out into how to start and where to start. Now, when it comes to how to start, I would advise them to understand the process end to end, right? Like I mentioned earlier, you need to understand the entire process before you start your RPA journey. Talk to your business users at a very early stage. Don't keep them away, because you need to showcase them demos. You need to show them the real benefits that you're planning to get out of this journey, right? Having a definitive business use case is very important, right? You need to understand what you're planning to achieve at the end. Are you trying to improve your customer experience? Are you trying to meet your SLAs? Are you trying to increase your employee NPS score? What are you planning to achieve? So having that business use case even before you start your journey is very important, so that helps you to scale your RPA journey after you finish your pilot, right? So again, start small. Don't target the most complex process. Start with RPA and document understanding, and then build on it. And coming to where to start now, claims is one of the one of those areas which has the highest potential and has the high ROI. Right now, why? Because it improves your customer experience. 2, it optimizes your cost. 3, it also minimizes fraud and claims leakage. And within claims, FNOL is a very good place to start with, because from there you can identify where your bottlenecks are or where the friction is, and then you can go on from there.
Dr. Chatchai?
Sure. So yes, I agree. I agree with Mr. Prasanna on the how and why and where to start. And this, but I might want to add one thing. So I think it depends on the value chain that you are in the insurance business. For example, if you are insurance company, you might want to target something that create the quick wins and create or generate the impact the most, right? Just like what Mr. Prasanna mentioned about claim, because we are talking about fraud protection as well. So that kind of things that we can start. But if you are broker, if you are insurance broker, then maybe you might want to start with claim, because actually claim is responsible by insurance or insurance company, right? So then it depends on where you are in the value chain itself. So and again, speaking of choosing or where to start. So then I think you have to understand about when I use the word quick wins, meaning it's not how, but it's about time frame or execution or deployment time frame. If basically you just easily plot the x and y axis, right? X is the time frame of the deployment, and y axis represent the business impact or contribution that you can potentially get from this RPA execution, and you use this quadrant to target with business process that can give you speed, in order to realize the business value. And claim is one of the good example that I see a lot of insurers, both in Thailand and in international insurers, try to capture. The second one is quotation process. And in quotation, because we, for the insurers and also insurance broker, if they interact a lot with their customer base, then the quotation process might be one of the good candidates, right? So that's where. And then how, back to what Mr. Prasanna said, I totally support that. But then I just want to add one thing. I think you also need to understand about the pros and cons of what RPA can do and cannot do. Just like what Mr. Prasanna mentioned, if you expect too much, you have high expectation that the RPA can do everything for you. It's like a magic tools. So it's not, right? So basically understanding what RPA can do and what RPA cannot. And then you have to understand about what are RPA technology or solutions out there and what can they integrate. I mean, if those RPA solutions can integrate with your existing system or not. So there's this kind of thing that go back to the criteria, right? Scalability, integratability, and then cloud ready, and then cyber security. So use that kind of criteria to identify which type of what RPA partners that you want to partner with, and then use the quick time, sort of quadrant analysis to understand the quick wins and business impact on where to start.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you so much for both of your insights. This is very, very helpful, and also paint a picture of how RPA is actually maturing and is moving from the unattended type of work into attended type of work, and then work hand in hand with the human. So this is great, and I think hope the audience understand more about RPA and how you can implement RPA to your business. And thank you very much for your time, Dr. Chatchai and Prasanna. Thank you for your time today.
You're welcome, and thank you for being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us here.